party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes!
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circus!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Fierce and Blurnsball.
Futurama!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is NXT Halloween Havoc, brought to you by the good people at the WWE, NXT, and the Capitol Wrestling Center. Joining me is one half of the Podsman, ladies and gentlemen, from the Cosmic Treadmill, Chris Sheehan. How you doing?
Hey, 3 times in 1 week. I gotta wonder if you broke some sort of chain letter or something to be stuck with me that often in such a short amount of time. But I'm happy to be here, and it was another one of those skin of our teeth sort of situations here, because I think the spirit of Shotzi Blackheart actually possessed my laptop, because it's been howling and hissing all day. I had to restart it a couple times before we started today, just to make sure we could do this.
Did you spin the wheel to make a deal?
I did 3 times. 3 times, and it always came up Shitsy's Choice, which I didn't want to investigate any further.
No, goodness gracious.
Got to lock every bathroom door in my house.
All right, well, as I mentioned, we are discussing the special NXT presentation of Halloween Havoc. It was their usual Wednesday night gig, but they dressed it up all Halloween-like, and they had Shotzi Blackheart occasionally doing, they call it hosting.
Very cringy shit, yeah.
Occasionally she would, channel Anne Hathaway from The Witches and just go overboard. But she was there to spin the wheel on 2 of the matches and announce the Haunted House of Terror match, which, oy. So, let's get into it. The first match was the Devil's Playground, featuring Johnny Gargano and Damian Priest. And this was basically a Falls Count Anywhere match. And these two have wrestled each other, I feel 100 times already.
This month, yeah.
Yeah. They beat each other with bats and pipes and kendo sticks, and we never got the reveal of who this was, but somebody came out in the Scream getup and helped Johnny Gargano throw Damian Priest off a ledge. And I guess he landed in a graveyard of some sort. And then Johnny Gargano pinned him and became your North American champion. What did you think of this match?
I thought it went a little long. If I had more time, I would have tried to watch this side by side with the DDP Savage match to see if there were any sort of direct comparisons to it, because I feel like they were trying to channel that match a bit with the fighting through the graveyard and whatnot. It was decent. It was just a little too long, and the whole Scream guy might have made more sense had they revealed it later on in the night, who it was, or gave us even the slightest impression of who it might have been. But the Scream guy will show up again later, but we still don't know who it is, do we?
No, they never. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but my DVR cut out after Io Shirai retained the title.
Mm-hmm.
And unless they did it after that, I don't know who it was.
Yeah, because I watched it on because we use the Hulu to do the DVRing, and it ended with Io still on top of the ladder. So I don't know if we know who this is. I think we can assume in that match it was probably Johnny, but I don't think it was what's her face, Candice in this match. It was a little too big to be Candice, but. I thought this might be a way of introducing a heavy for Johnny, but they're never revealed. Maybe they'll come back in a non-Halloween themed episode. Who knows?
It was the living embodiment of the Johnny Gargano way.
Might be. It might be. Which was probably still about a foot too tall.
I think we need a break from garbage matches and hardcore matches, and there's just been so many of them.
This was not the show for us.
Yeah, well, no, that's the thing. Had Halloween Havoc stood on its own, and had these kinds of matches without. I feel like we're doing these almost every week on someone's show.
Sure, absolutely.
Either Raw, or SmackDown, or NXT, or AEW. Someone's always having a garbage match.
Yeah.
And they're just all running together for me now. So, like, to me, this was nothing special.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, had this been its own thing, I think it would have been more exciting and more of a novelty. But like you said, I mean, these things are happening way too often nowadays, and it feels like, that tail end of the Attitude Era where, like, you could hit someone with a chair 15 times and not be disqualified, and there was no more countouts. It was just no rules, and that made it so any sort of move or impact that would have been seen as extreme or hardcore 5 years earlier is just another move. It's a transition, and I mean, I guess at least we ended a couple of matches today with murder. Which, I mean, that does up the stakes a little bit. It cheapens murder for the next time they want to do it, but it does up the stakes on, just putting someone through a table, I guess.
My other complaint about, and this is sort of a general wrestling complaint, but Johnny Gargano, Damian Priest is one of the examples.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you need to wrestle a guy before you finally win?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to wrestle them until the point where it no longer matters if you're going to beat them, and then you're allowed to beat them.
Right. So, like, the amount of times that Damian Priest retained his title, to me, don't matter anymore.
Exactly.
You're just going to wrestle Johnny Gargano until he wins.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a turn-of-the-century sort of machination in pro wrestling where, like, every week we'll have someone fighting a champion in a non-title match, and if they beat them, they get the title match, and then they lose the title match. And it seems like we get that over and over and over again, which not only, takes the heat out of the title, but it also takes the heat out of the confrontation because, like, go back to before WrestleMania 6. If we had Hulk and the Ultimate Warrior wrestling in number one contender matches leading up to WrestleMania 6, who'd give a shit?
Right.
If we had Andre challenging Hogan for a title shot, who'd care when we actually got to WrestleMania 3? It's there. I don't know what it is. If it's just an embarrassment of riches, in as much as they have too much television to fill, but they also have like 6,000 people on their roster, so they should be able to be a little bit fresher than this. And they might accidentally get someone over. But instead, let's have the same few guys in the same confrontations for the titles, and for 9 out of 10 of the matches, it's going to be non-title anyway. So by the time we get to the title match, no one's going to care.
Do you care that Johnny Gargano is the the North American champion?
Until you just said that, I forgot who actually won, and I forgot it was for a title. So, what does it matter? Where does he go from here? Is it just going to be? I mean, we're seeing it on the main shows where it's like, okay, well, this guy beat this guy for the title. Who's his next feud? Well, the guy he beat for the title. It's like, but then what? Well, then he'll beat him, and then we'll get him going after him again for this title. It's just, I don't know where they go from here with Gargano. Are there even any baby faces on this program? Are there? Like, we have Isaiah Jizz Scott, who might be a babyface, right? Who else is a babyface? I think everybody on this card was a heel. Except for Io, depending on how you look at her, or Rhea. It's just, what do you do? What do you do with Johnny here? Keith Lee's gone, Matt Riddle's gone, or just Riddle. I guess he lost his first name somewhere along the line. But I don't know what you do with him here. It just seems like a revolving door, and they're going to pass the savings on to us.
We have to do something with the Cruiserweight title match.
Oh.
Santos Escobar defeated Jake Atlas in less than 5 minutes. 3 minutes and 28 to be exact.
Oh, God, Escobar, man. Why is this guy on TV? He just sucks. Why does he have a title? Every time I see this guy, it's just like he's like the Baron Corbin of NXT right now. I have absolutely no interest in this guy. It's the same match over and over again.
Why aren't they pushing Jake Atlas? Like, he gets TV time, but he gets beaten like a pulp.
But he always gets lost. He always loses, yeah.
Beaten to a pulp. I don't really understand why. Like, they brought all these guys in from Evolve, and, Austin Theory, they started to push, and then they were like, oh, you're getting too over. Let's give you a losing streak. They pushed Bronson Reed for a while, and then they forgot about him. They've turned Cameron Grimes into like a joke wrestler.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. You know, Jim Cornette talks all the time about how they don't make stars in the WWE anymore. It's about like keeping the brand over, but but as far as pushing actual people and creating stars that, you know, as fans you can get behind, nobody gets. It's like that line from Finding Forrester: they only let you go so far. So, you know, I look at this and I'm like, well, I'm not into Santos Escobar, but he's at least got the title and got a gimmick and, you know, whatever else. And then they don't do anything interesting with that.
No.
And then they have Jake Atlas, who's got a good look, you know, and could be a good baby face, and they don't let him win ever. So, like, what is the point?
Yeah, like, are they afraid that Jake Atlas is going to get so over that he'll eventually leave? I mean, I don't see Jake Atlas setting any worlds on fire, but let's give the guy a shot. It's pretty brutal, and the Cornette statement is pretty much spot on for everything that goes on here. If you get a whiff of getting over on your own in an organic way, you get the losing gimmick. You get which, I mean, has a single losing gimmick, a losing streak gimmick in the history of professional wrestling actually worked?
No.
I can't think of one. I mean, it's like they'll do it every couple of years, and then that person always comes out of it looking a lot worse than they went into going in.
Living in Arizona, do you watch like baseball or football or hockey or anything?
No.
Well, for most mortals, generally speaking, when their team, like here in Tampa, we have the Bucks, and people lose interest in the Bucks when they can't seem to win a game.
Oh, well, I mean, I am a lifelong Mets fan, so I know. I know how that goes. We had that one great year when I was 6 years old, and then that was about it.
Yeah, it's painful to be a Mets fan. But that's my point. Like, will people, you know, have a passing interest in their team if they, you know, if they're losing all the time? Probably just to keep up with it, you know, if they're really like, you know, into the sport. But other than that, it's not like they stay committed and die hard when your team's losing. You move on with your life.
Sure, absolutely. And it's like with wrestling, we have the ability to put like a sympathy with that, right? I mean, where like we're not seeing, you know, Keith Hernandez isn't giving interviews talking about how hard it is to keep losing, you know, in a way where we know that there is some sort of a puppeteer in the background who can make him stop losing. But we have like MVP back in the mid 2000s who had a losing streak, and it's like, yeah, okay, you can garner some sympathy for a couple of times, but when the guy keeps losing, then they always end these losing streaks with like a fluke win. It's like, well, then he lucked into it. He's not any good. You've just spent 6 months telling us this guy isn't worth caring about.
Losing streaks only matter when you do something with them. Like Johnny Gargano's losing streak turned him heel, and now he's lying and cheating and stealing to win matches. Okay, great.
That makes sense. Yeah.
You've also done it with a guy who was already over.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't really help anybody when the guy's already over.
All right. Let's talk about this Haunted House of Terror match.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear the latest Jim Cornette podcast when he reviews this, because he's already said like he was a big booster of MJF. And I don't know if you've heard about this, but MJF and Chris Jericho did a song.
They do a stupid singing bullshit.
Yeah, they did a song and dance number.
Jesus Christ!
Apropos of nothing.
Just to like tweak the nipples of some fans and tickle the taint of others. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Lame.
They just jerked each other off. It was.
That does seem to be Jericho's finishing move these days. So yeah.
So anyway, but Jim Cornette is like, you know, every time he praises somebody, he finds out they wrestled the Invisible Man or they wrestled the Japanese Doll.
Or a 5-year-old. Yeah.
Have you heard about the Japanese Doll, by the way? Because I've actually seen that.
Was it a blow-up doll? Was that Kenny Omega?
Kenny Kenny Omega is the one that he seems to be the most mad at, but I've seen other people do it.
Okay. Was that like in the DDT organization or whatever?
Yeah, I just saw it done at a GCW event.
Okay.
I can't remember who it was, but one of the GCW regulars wrestled the doll.
Okay.
And that's when I realized like what Jim Cornette was talking about, because I'd never heard of the Kenny Omega thing. He just brings it up constantly. It's like the worst thing ever to happen in wrestling. And,
not saying something.
Yeah, and then people wrote into him like, this is a gimmick. This is one of those Japanese things that that everyone's wrestled the doll apparently.
Okay.
Something along those lines.
Sure.
But get back on track.
Sure.
So Jim Cornette was a big booster for MJF, and then MJF did a song and dance, and he's like, I don't know why I praise people. You'll always hurt me.
And the crazy thing is the petulant kids at AEW probably did it in part to get under Cornette's skin.
Probably.
It's so
I'm sure
pathetic
they're wasting time and money on that show just pissing off Cornette.
That's so pathetic, but I'm sure that's happening.
Well, the reason I bring all that up is he's a big fan of Cameron Grimes.
Uh-oh.
And he's also a big fan of Dexter Lumis.
What is Dexter Lumis's gimmick? Is he just like weird, creepy rapist guy? Like, what is he?
Yeah, apparently he's like...
Sex pervert?
I was going with horror monster, but sure.
He just looks like such a pervert. Like he'd be... like we'd see him like standing outside the beach house on 90210 just staring in the window or something. He's just a freaking weirdo. I don't know what his gimmick is, and I feel uncomfortable every time he's on screen.
So, as I said, Jim Cornette's a huge fan of both of these guys, but they've turned Dexter Lumis into, like, not nearly as interesting Kane.
Okay.
He's a horror monster.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, that's all Kane was.
Sure.
You know? When they humanized him in later years, but for a long time there, Kane just ran around in a mask and choked people, and he'd pop out of dark corners and shit. What'd you say?
Oh, the red lights came on. He wrestled in the glow and stuff. Yeah, totally.
Another example would be The Fiend. He's a horror gimmick.
Yeah.
Cameron Grimes, as I say, grown adult man. You know, he's got a good build to him. Well, now he's doing, like...
Wile E. Coyote.
I was going to say Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
There you go.
Zoinks, Regal! I don't want to go in there. You know, so... we either get, like, bad comedy, feuds that go too long or don't make any sense, or we get, like, people killing themselves with all manner of furniture. That's the WWE product on every show now. Like, NXT used to have wrestling. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it used to be, like, the pure show. Yeah.
You know, like, you get it with Timothy Thatcher, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So, over the course of the show, they did the cinematic Haunted House of Terror match. First was Shaggy begging Regal to not make him do it. And for no reason given, Regal's like, you have to do the match with the crazy guy in a haunted house. Good luck.
And then we have Michael P.S. Hayes pop out of a van.
Yeah, then the next segment was like the lift that he was going to get. What the hell did Michael Hayes say to him?
Dude, the mics in this were so bad. I didn't understand a single word of this. I heard him say Bad Street like 17 times, but everything else was just like Bad Street. And he'd be like dancing around and shaking his hand. It was like so poorly. The audio was just so poor in this, especially since they had freaking Bad Street USA blaring out of this damn van. It's like they couldn't have reshot this, like realizing it was shit. But yeah, he came out and I guess he told him he has to get in the damn the smoke-filled van because he did.
And basically Cameron Grimes was like, "Oh, it's it's Michael Hayes, Bad Street, Freebirds. Okay, I'll get in the van."
Yeah, that's all it takes. I guess when you're a Southern boy, that's all it takes.
So then he gets to the house. And he's yelling and hollering and carrying on while he's walking through the house.
Then he sees Paige taking a shower. I'm glad she was able to work out her differences with WWE on her Twitch channel to show up in this match.
Well, before that, he ran into the zombies.
Oh, yeah.
He ran into the crab-walking zombies. Occasionally, I wouldn't even call it a wrestling match, but like a brawl would occur between Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes.
Yeah, a brawl that makes the House of Horrors Bray Wyatt-Randy Orton match look like a 6-star Tokyo Dome match.
This went on for a while, and eventually, like, they kept doing, Cameron Grimes would walk into a room, something would frighten him, he'd run away.
That's it.
Or he'd hit it with his move.
They should have done, they should have went full Scooby-Doo here and just had them, running in and out of, doors in a hallway and, coming out of the same when they ran in and, make it, so it's impossible how they could have done this. They should have done that. But
they should, and they also should have, ripped off Dexter Lumis' face. Let's see who you really are under that mask.
It's Johnny Gargano again.
Yeah. It would have been funny if it was Classy Freddie Blassie or Jerry the King Lawler or somebody. I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
Oh, that'd have been funny.
It would have been over the top stupid and Cornette would have murdered it, but it would have made me laugh.
And it would have been a mercy killing for the segment.
Yeah. Well, eventually he leaves the house and he runs away, and he runs all the way to the Capitol Wrestling Center.
We get a to be continued.
Yeah. So he gets to the ring, and the zombies followed him.
Yeah, Retribution shows up.
The zombies follow him. They crab walk around him. He, hits a zombie at one point. Eventually, one of the zombies jumps on Dexter Lumis' shoulders. Dexter Lumis eventually chokes out Cameron Grimes. And there's your Haunted House of Terror match.
Yeah, then he molests him while he's laying in his lap.
He's like, there.
Yeah.
So, let me just say this. Pick a genre. If you're going to do horror, give me horror.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing to do slapstick, commit fully to slapstick.
Yeah.
Don't be half pregnant with either one. And that's what this was. This was we want it to be scary, but we want it to be funny. And it's how many masters are you trying to serve with this? And who are you who are you making this for?
That's a great question. Yeah.
So what did you think?
I thought that this didn't need multiple segments. There was some funny shit in there with I think Grimes is doing the best he can with this weird gimmick that he's been given here as just a dude scared of his own shadow for this feud. I think he's really doing a great job committing to the bit and sticking to the landing. Conversely, or similarly, Lumis is doing the same. He's being, a creepy sex pervert, standing at windows and pulling himself through doors and shit. I think that's fine. But when you put it all together and this is what you get, it was what it was. It was perfectly fine in a detach your brain sort of way. I think they overdid it with the zombies. I don't know what the point. Of course, we're not supposed to believe that this is real. But it's where did the zombies go after this match? They climb back into the ground? Did they? What are we doing here? It was dumb, but it was okay. Not something I'd want to see ever again, probably. But it was, it was what it was.
AJ Styles versus The Undertaker, they took it seriously. It was shot seriously.
Mm-hmm.
The tone was consistent.
Oh yeah.
This, like I said, they they couldn't find the tone.
No, no. This match was a victim of the Boneyard Brawl match. Actually, all of the cinematic matches that we've had since then have been victims of it, because that match was just so well done. It was such a novelty. We'd never seen anything like it before, and then it's like, hey, people dug it. Let's do it again. And then they did it again, and then they did it again, and now
But they don't really do it again, do they? Because they don't take it seriously. Everything has got to be Benny Hill.
Yeah, totally. It's comedy, and like you said earlier, it's we don't know what is the genre here. What are we doing? Is this a slapstick performance from Grimes, or is this a horror showcase for Loomis? Because really, I mean, it can be both, but it's not going to succeed at both.
I feel like the WWE can't get out of children or our audience. Like, we're TV PG. Our audience is 13-year-olds. That's who we're making the show for. Except that I'm 44. You're, what, 40?
40, yeah.
Chris Bailey is around my age. Mm-hmm. The NXT audience is not 13.
No. As the demographics tell us every friggin' week.
So I wish they would look at the audience that they have before you lose them all. And start gearing the product towards your fan base.
It's similar to wrestling and comics have so many parallels in almost how aggressively against their fandom they are. Like, I've never seen industries like this where they're putting out a product for the people who do not consume their product, while telling the people that do consume their product, out of habit, out of addiction, out of just tradition, that they don't want us anymore, and they do it. Yeah, we don't matter. We're that Jim Cornette Group 1 of fans. We're the ones who are always going to be here, and they know it, and they have the ability to shit on us for it. Don't know who they're chasing with this sort of a match. It's certainly not us, but they know that we've been invested since the earliest WrestleManias and before that. So where are we going? They don't have any reason to cater to us because we're not going anywhere, unfortunately.
Did I hallucinate Pat McAfee?
No, he was here.
Okay.
Just not yet. Or maybe, I think right after this match, yeah.
Okay.
Did I hallucinate the Yeti? Or are we going to get to that too?
Yeah, I remember like someone dressed up. Oh, that's right, the Drake Maverick bit.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk about that in a second. So, Orny Lorcan and Sonny Birch come out. Pat McAfee comes out and he explains how he robbed the bank. And then Kyle O'Reilly comes out, but he doesn't want to face three guys by himself. So apparently, the rest of the Undisputed Era were out trick or treating.
Yeah, I think they were sitting online at Best Buy, camped out for PlayStations or something.
Yeah. So Kyle O'Reilly faced off with them by himself, but oh no, here comes Pete Dunne. Yes.
Hey, joint manipulation.
Since the world ended in March, we have not seen Pete Dunne because you couldn't travel. And Pete Dunne has finally come back, but oh shit, because Ridge Holland apparently broke his leg in 1,000 pieces. Pete Dunne has joined Pat McAfee and Orny Lorcan and Sonny Birch. Mm-hmm. And they all beat up Kyle O'Reilly.
It's true.
So I'm guessing War Games is the Undisputed Era versus that group.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. You're probably right. That's usually a 4-on-4, right?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
And last time they did it with all like the super heels, and they did the Undisputed Era versus the super faces.
Yeah.
But as far as 4-on-4 teams that are lighting themselves up to fight each other, I can't think of. And what a group! Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, Orny Lorcan, and Sonny Birch.
Danny Birch, yeah.
Am I right? Is it Sonny Birch or Danny Birch?
I think it's Danny. Or it might be Sonny. You put the two of them together and have them knock on my door, I couldn't tell you which one was which.
One of them yelled out, "Don't mind if I do," before they not dropped Kyle O'Reilly on his head on a chair.
Oh, that's my favorite one then. I don't care which one that is. That one's my favorite.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't know what your name is, but you're awesome.
But you're my favorite. That might be Oni, because I think one of his gimmicks is writing out all caps Twitter posts that are really, really weird. So maybe that was him.
Awesome.
But it's we're talking about who's the babyface, who's a heel. I mean,
I guess the Undisputed Era are going to be faces now.
Just by proxy. And if you need to turn them babyface, the best way to do so is to put them against the most gigantic douche on the planet, which is Pat McAfee. So I guess that's one way to do it. I think it might be the only way to make people cheer Adam Cole. So that's smart. That said, though, I think McAfee is knocking it out of the park with just his douchiness.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, and he was very impressive in that match he had a few months back. And here, I mean, he cut a promo that made you want to see him get his ass kicked. So that's some good old school wrestling here.
All right. There was another skit where Drake Maverick was doing black and white Hulk Hogan. But he was doing it... So he called the girl Mean Gene, and she didn't want to play along. This is why you don't do that kind of stuff with girls.
Yeah.
They never want to play along. They're
and she probably had no idea what a Mean Gene was.
Yeah.
So there's that.
That's also a problem. And then Drake Maverick got sexually assaulted by someone dressed up as the Giant and the Yeti. The Yeti. And that's, of course, a joke about how Hulk Hogan got bear hugged by the two of them at a Halloween Havoc.
Yeah, 95, I think.
Yep, way to date yourself, guys.
Yeah, and then the Shockmaster steps through the curtain and doesn't trip, which
Killian's like, I'm not going to fall over.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's a Shockmaster thing, and they're like, oh look, partners who don't get along, haha.
Yep. Yeah, and then Maverick puts the helmet on and he trips, and then Killian Dane does his best Davey Boy Smith impression, says he fell on his horse. So there was that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice callback.
Well, as I said, please gear your show to your audience. I guess they did.
They did this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They referenced a 20 some odd year old.
They did the thing that that they used to make fun of Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler for making old references by calling out the fact that they're making old references, and here we are. I mean, this is a century back we're making references to, but I popped for it. It might have been the thing I popped most for, which is very, very sad.
All right, and speaking of old references, Kevin Nash took on Sid in our next match. Rhea Ripley took on Raquel Gonzalez in 13 minutes and 2 seconds, and Rhea Ripley came out looking strong and defeated her. They had a good big girls match. Raquel Gonzalez still needs work, but that's what you're in NXT for.
She's worlds better than she was.
Yeah. Rhea Ripley, she needed a big win here. She's been kind of win one, lose one lately. She needed a big win. She's been in this feud with this gal for a while now. This gal's been messing with her, and Rhea Ripley came out looking strong. What'd you think?
It was decent. It went on a little bit too long. This is one of those things that we've talked about with. Actually, I think it's been only or predominantly the women's matches, usually directed at Nia. But if you're going to do these power moves, make sure you can do them. It looked like poor Raquel Gonzalez was going to get dropped on her head 4 or 5 times during this match when Ripley would go for a power move and slip. So it's let's make sure you can do it. At least she got the riptide at the end, but there was one on the corner that looked like she was going to go for the same way she beat Shayna, and it was oh god, this poor woman's going to break her neck. Thankfully, it didn't happen, but it was decent enough. I think it went. I mean, we talk about 50-50 booking, and unfortunately, the pattern of behavior here tells me that this feud isn't over. So I hope I'm wrong, but I think we'll probably get more out of these two before they pump Rhea back up to title contention again. But I don't know. It was all right.
Then we got back to good old Shotzi. What do you think of Shotzi's outfit?
You know, I watched this show early in the morning for a couple of reasons. One was because that was my schedule that let me do, but also I knew my wife would still be in bed because the Shotzi commercials are like the most cringe stuff I've seen in quite a long time from WWE, which is saying something. And these segments were equally, if not more so, cringy. It was literally her shouting into a microphone and then howling, literally howling. Ugh. I could have done without it.
So she spun the wheel and had an orgasm.
She did.
And when she was done, it was a tables, ladders, and scares match for the NXT Women's Championship. Here's the only thing I'm going to say about this match.
Mm-hmm.
Candice LeRae pulled the table out from underneath the ring, and there was a bag of fake body parts in it, and
They were fake?
and she was frightened.
I thought the other Dexter showed up for a minute.
That was the scare.
Yeah.
There were no other scares. Because I was ready for that to happen all match,
Yeah.
but they did it once and then forgot about it.
That was it. Yeah.
The rest of this is the typical. I'm getting sick of ladder matches.
It seems like we get them. We get like at least one a month now.
You did that almost at every NXT takeover.
Sure.
And then you're right. On some shows we get them too.
Mm-hmm.
There's some sort of crazy ladder match, and at this point, I have seen everything happen to everybody on a ladder match.
Yeah.
Only this time it was Io Shirai and Candice LeRae, and they brutalized each other. How are the two of them not injured?
Yeah, we haven't heard about any injuries, but one spot in particular that we'll talk about looked like
Go ahead.
Looked like
just take the ball, man. Go.
Well, this match ended with a murder, as did the other Gargano match. But here we had Candice up on top of the ladder, just about to pull the title down, and then Io pushes her off the ladder into a ladder that was bridged across the apron of the ring and the commentary table. And Candice, Jim Ross used to yell, you don't learn how to fall off a 15-foot ladder, right? That was like one of the things in the do not try this at home commercials.
She looked like Batman after Bane broke his back.
She needs to learn how to fall off a 15-foot ladder because she landed she didn't take the brunt of this on her torso. She took it on her damn knee. Like she fell and contorted in a way where her knee slammed into this other ladder, and then she fell backwards like she was Batman with his back broken. Brutal. I was expecting to hear that she had shattered her kneecap or tore whatever one of those ligaments are back there.
Speaking of shattering your kneecap, Io Shirai fucking moonsaults into a pile of chairs.
That was smart. That was very, very smart. Yeah, I mean there were some things here that feel like they were done for the highlight reel.
She meteored into a ladder.
Yeah, she did that. Candice did the neck breaker off the apron into the two tables that were set up because the T in TLS is table. But,
this is what I hate about ladder matches these days, or TLC matches. It's fucking mousetrap.
Oh yeah.
It's it's one stunt. They spend half the match setting up stunts.
Yeah.
And then it's okay, let's go through all of them now.
Sure.
In turn.
Uh-huh. Totally.
And they all follow that pattern. There's no building up to anything. I was thinking about Razor and Shawn, and they had a wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to eventually get to the belt.
Sure.
So eventually they had to get to a ladder. But they had a wrestling match on the way to getting to the ladder.
Yeah.
Now it's just a stunt show.
That's it. Yeah, the bell rings and they're under the ring pulling out ladders. It's And it's just, like you said, it's just so formulaic. I think if they had just a standard Razor Shawn style match, would anybody even get it? Like, would anybody even understand what they were going for? Because we've been so trained. You know, the Hardys, Edge, Christian, and Dudley's thing was like a blessing and a curse. You know, it gave us the cursed chalice of what a ladder match was going to become in the 21st century. And here we are 20 years into the 21st century, and it's like, okay, enough. let's either retire the gimmick completely or reel it back a little bit, so that when someone does go flying off a ladder, it means something again. I mean, not for nothing, 4 days ago, Drew McIntyre fell off the side of a cage, right? I mean, how often can we do this shit where we're seeing these very, very similar bumps? None of them are impressive anymore, especially with how poorly they're done these days and how contrived they all are. I just don't see what the pop is here. And like we've been saying this entire show, who is this show for? I mean, it's not for us. Is it for the younger people who just like to see people fall off things that are sort of high? Or are they tired of it too? I don't know. It just feels like a very overdone sort of gimmick. And like you, when they pulled out the torso, the body from under the ring, I was pumped and primed to see more silly shit. And we didn't get any more. Which, it's like, what was the point of the gimmick then? Then just call it a TLC match and just have this one little, boo, scary thing and go on. But when the whole premise of the thing is that it's a scare match and we only get one scare, I mean, they didn't even fight into the graveyard, really. They fell to the front of it. But, yeah, the Scream guy came back, as we alluded to earlier, and then Shotzi gave him an electric chair, which makes me believe it probably was Johnny Gargano, because she probably weighs like 15 pounds more than Johnny Gargano does, so she could probably pull the move off. Yeah, I was happy to see EO win, because I was, when Johnny won in the first match, I figured that Candice was going to win in the final match, but was happy to see EO win. I figure they're probably gearing up for her and Rhea somewhere down the line, but which, I mean, that could probably headline a takeover if they wanted it to. But and they also have what's her face back. I was going to call her Athena. What the hell's her name? Ember Moon. So she might get in there for it, but you never know. But as for a match, it was a match that was 3 big spots and a whole bunch of garbage. So pretty much par for the course.
All right. So the inaugural NXT Halloween Havoc revival. What do you give the show?
13th unlucky Halloween Havoc, apparently.
What do you give the show overall?
Overall, probably a B, because it was a novelty, and everything feels like hospital food these days with WWE, where everything is the same. I mean, I remember the Monday Night Wars DVD, which everybody went nuts for, because it was like the first time we were going to hear about what people in WCW thought about WCW at the time. And Eddie Guerrero said something like, you could turn to our show and you wouldn't know what month or year it was, because it was always the same shit. Every show would end with an NWO beatdown. Everybody was interchangeable. And that's what WWE's become. It's like, you could turn on Raw, and despite the fact that, we're in the Thunderdome now, I mean, that, of course, is something that dates the show. But other than that, you couldn't tell what year it is. You couldn't tell what month it is. It's the same LED boards. It's the same pyro. It's the same music. It's the same 5 stars on top of the show. And it's been that way for a decade. This Halloween Havoc, despite the fact that it didn't really rock my socks or anything, was at least different. Like, you could turn to this episode and be like, oh, okay, well, this is a Halloween episode. That's cool. And that makes it to where it's almost special, which WWE is lacking in hardcore these days. So I think just on account of that, and the fact that it was something to look forward to. They told us about this, like 3 or 4 weeks ago? And it's like, okay, well, cool. There's something to look forward to. It won't just be a regular NXT show with the same few guys and the same throwaway matches. It's something different. It's something special. And for that, I guess retroactively, I'd give it, higher marks, just for giving me something to look forward to, and the fact that it was a novelty.
I think it was a fun idea. But once you got past the novelty of it being a Halloween-themed show, you had Johnny Gargano, Damian Priest, which was okay.
Yep.
Santos Escobar versus Jake Atlas, which was less than 5 minutes, and who gives a shit?
Mm-hmm.
Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes in a cinematic comedy match. Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez was good. And Io Shirai and Candice LeRae had the same ladder match in NXT they've been having for a few years now.
Yeah.
So, a lot of sizzle, not a lot of steak.
Yeah, like my main takeaways are Drake Maverick pretending he's Hulk Hogan and Wade Barrett saying he has some bad news. That's about it.
So I'm going to say B- on this one.
Fair enough.
All right, that brings us to the end of our NXT coverage. The next time you will hear Chris Sheehan talking wrestling will be November 24th for Survivor Series. How about that?
Mm-hmm. How about that? Just about a month from now. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
However, before that, we will be doing AEW Full Gear on November 10th. So you can check out those shows. We have a whole bunch of shows in the archives. Go check them out. And Chris, you got anything you want to plug?
ChrisandReggie.podbean.com and Chris is on InfiniteEarths.com.
All right. Thank you for joining us on TV Party tonight. For Chris Sheehan, be well, be safe, and behave.
See you.